What?
Their presentation, right? With those...
Oh, tables! Look-up tables?
Yes.
Look-up tables, wow. I love it because it connects the very current, the state of the art, the stuff that's just, it's that bleeding edge of human attainment, of intellectual attainment. I love that it connects with a bunch of old stones sticking out of the ground, or, making a big circle on some big arid plateau up, down in Utah or something. It says that we're not smarter now than we were then. And that we should, I don't know. There's moral lessons to be drawn. We should be humble. And we shouldn't believe the propaganda for the present moment, that it's so progressive and, we're better than we were. No. Well, no. Both, all, yeah. We don't actually get anywhere, but this paradox that I really like is the spiral. Here's another example. Here's a nice example, and it does tie in with chords and signs and so on. And it is the shape of numbers is logarithmic, or exponential, if you like, which is just squaring. Logarithms didn't appear until about 1620 European time. And this guy John Napier took about 20 years to compile the first table of logarithms. But essentially Ptolemy, Claudius Ptolemaeus had done the same thing 1500 years before. Modulo times 2. Chords are like sine functions times 2. It's that simple. It's just... So it was implicitly there. And it was implicitly there 500 years before that, or 600 years, or I'm sure like 1,000 years, or 2,000 years.
Yeah, it gets too technical for me to understand.
Oh, I was just gonna. I was verging on the insight that since music is logarithmic,
Yes.
that Pythagoras, if we can credit Pythagoras, but Pythagoras is just this word that kind of denotes the lineage, Babylon, Sumer, the caves, the whole deal. There's always been intellectuals. They've always been thrilled by this stuff. But somebody took a stretched string, or a piece of bone and made a flute out of it and noticed where the holes were going. Or if you have that piece of stretched string, then you have, you cut it in half and you get the octave, right? Halving is doubling. And so you're right at this mirror between frequency and wavelength, and science just tumbles out of there. It's just there. And fast forward to the 20th century. Well, fast forward to the 19th century, and actually, and my man Fechner, who I was talking about yesterday. Fechner, who would go off wandering and talking to trees and fairies and things.
Yeah.
But we remember him for what's called the Weber-Fechner law, which is that the intensity of sensory stimulation in any sense medium whatsoever is log-scaled. It's logarithmic. And that would be extended, you can extend that to memory. You can extend that to your own memory of your own life. And it's a bit of a paradoxical thing, because what has happened really recently looms largest in your memory. And it's a perspective effect. It just narrows, 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 gets smaller, 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 smaller. Except, paradoxically, the memory of your childhood, right, is enormous. And then it diminishes and diminishes and diminishes as you approach the present age. And a similar perspective effect, and a kind of a paradoxical dual perspective effect with respect to history. The sort of the collective memory.
What's paradoxical about it? Why is it?
Well, you know, life, the child is experiencing so much at such intensity because there's no memory to get in the way, that it takes up everything. It's enormous, right? And then as stuff gets encoded in memory and we get this flattening effect, you know? Things get normal, disappear, go into ground, we lose ourselves, we wind up like, by the middle of a life, completely lost. And then, for those who are lucky enough to live long enough, I guess they see, you know, they do the second childhood thing. And as they lose their memories, the stuff that remains are these enormous pieces of childhood. You know? And they travel back into, as they reverse their course.
If we could muck with our memory, you know, and design it to our desire, what would be your design?
Oh, well, Paul Valéry had a lovely line that I've always liked. He said, "All I want is the marvelous group of all possible images." I would like to have the entire collective record of the species available to me, with the intimacy and you know, the personal quality and readiness of access of my own memory. You know, I'd like to be able to just walk through a door in my mind and find it all there. But Google does this, but in a very still primitive kind of baby steps kind of way.